So we're going to secure our application using a library called Passport.js. Right? Passport.js is a Node a module that what it does is that it allows us to use many different mechanisms for protecting our application. In particular, it allows us to use normal authentication, such as just plain old username and password. Okay, that's a classical way, just by simple credentials. But it also allows us to use any number of third-party authentication mechanisms. Right? For instance, it allows us to integrate with Facebook, with Google, with LinkedIn, with Amazon, with GitHub. It allows us to interact with each one of these different third-party authentications. And each one is a little bit different than the other. Right? So it would be a nightmare having to code or integrate individually, specifically for each one of these. Yes? Each one has this different little API. Everyone has its own little quirks. Yes? So it's just like trying to code in raw JavaScript. Right? It would be a nightmare having to target different vendors, different versions of JavaScript. It would be a nightmare, right? So that's why we use jQuery. jQuery creates a high-level abstraction across many different vendors, many different versions. So same thing, Passport. Passport provides a single API, right? That allows it to interact with all different types of vendors using one single API. Make sense? All right. And Passport calls this strategies, right? So there is the Twitter strategy, there's the Google strategy, there's the Facebook strategies. Different vendors have different strategies, and it allows us to invoke different strategies just by name, right? You want to deal with LinkedIn? You just give me the string, and I'll do the details for you, right? I'll handle everything for you. I'll handle the details, right? And in those cases, Passport, what it'll do is that it will send a request, the correct request to that third-party vendor, and that third-party vendor will ask you to log in to their server, right? So you either log in into Facebook or log in into Google or LinkedIn or Twitter, whatever, and then Facebook or Twitter or Google will come back to Passport saying it was successful or not. Okay? Meaning we're going to be authenticating against their database. But we also want to be able to authenticate against our own databases. Yes? Right? So there is a specific strategy called the local strategy. Meaning I'm going to authenticate against my local database. Yes, I can authenticate against remote databases, right? Against third-party authentications, or I can authenticate against a local database. Today we're going to look at local authentication, and then we'll look at doing third-party authentication. Okay? All right. So let's do first local authentication.